All right, we got the 2012 Dodge Charger with us today with a 3.6 liter, and it is in for an oil filter slash cooler housing. Common problem on these Dodges. We'll show you how to do it. So this car is equipped with a 3.6 liter Pentastart engine, and it is notorious for this oil filter housing, which has a cooler underneath the intake manifold that we will be taking apart. So those leak coolant, you lose all your coolant, you overheat, and that is the same case that happened with this car. It is a problem that happens on almost all these motors. You can find this motor in a various of Jeeps, Rams, Chryslers, Dodges. They're put pretty much everywhere, and they all have this same issue, and the process is the same between all of them. All right, so we are going to be upgrading the oil filter housing. Now, Dorman, hit or miss, say what you want, but this kit replaces all the plastic stock components. It is far better. Here is the part number. You can look it up for yourself. A lot of people enjoy it. It is an upgrade and is better than the OE. So we'll be replacing it with this Dorman oil filter housing kit. It does, if you have a pre-2015 model, you will have to upgrade the oil filter itself, but it gives you compatible part numbers that you can use. Now we'll go ahead and replace it. Comes with also intake manifold gaskets. We picked up this off Amazon for $200. I think the part stores sell for around $300. Napa, O'Reilly's, AutoZone. All right, so the first thing I do is just pull this cover off. It just pops right out. All right, we're gonna remove this air intake hose. It is just two 18mm clamps that you're loosening up. Sorry, 8mm clamps that you're loosening up. And you will unplug this little air temp sensor just by pulling it out. All right, so the next step is we're going to be unplugging all the stuff that connects this throttle body and removing this bracket on the back of the throttle body. That way we can take the upper intake off. So majority of this stuff is just unplugging, pulling up vacuum hoses, unclipping sensors, and once you get them all done, there it goes. These clips that hold the wiring harness in, you just kind of have to prong them off, maybe a flathead screwdriver, or just try and grab them with your fingers. This one here is kind of a locking style, locking tab. You gotta kind of get the tab out. There it goes. You can use pliers, but I used one of these little universal hose clamp. All right, well, first start off with the two 10s up top. All right, and the third one is down here. We're going to pull this wiring harness off, and then there's the third. All right, and in order to get this one, we're using a ratcheting wrench with a 13mm. All right, and here's that last one on the back of the bracket. This bracket can be removed. We can just hang it down there. It's not in our way anymore. All right, so now we're above. We're going to take out the upper intake manifold. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 8mm. And then on the inside, we also have another 2. 1, 2, 7 total. So we are going to go ahead. They are 8mm or they are T20s. All right, my apologies. I forgot about the two 10mm nuts right here that we must remove to remove the upper intake. So go ahead and remove those with either a wrench or ratchet, your choice. I'm also going to pop out this breather hose from the clips here and the clip there, and I'll just tuck out of the way. All right, so now we have the lower intake manifold to remove. But first, we're going to have to remove the fuel injectors. Well, the fuel injectors are going to come with it, so we got to go ahead and remove the fuel injector harness on all of them. So the way it works is we gotta pull these clips up, the red clips, and then it'll pop on out, just like that. Here's just a better example of how it works. You take your pick, just like that, and then push the black clip down and unplug it. That's how we're gonna do it for every single one. Alright, so we're removing the lower intake manifold. All you have to remove are these 8 surrounding perimeter 8mm. Okay, once you remove those, it'll come on up. We're gonna leave the fuel rails in place, and we're gonna leave the fuel line hooked up in the back because it'll give us enough play just to move it over to the side. Alright, so you can see all the coolant beneath this cooler that's been leaking. Alright, so now it's time to go ahead and replace it. We're going to have to remove the hoses out the back. We're going to have to go ahead and remove the sensors as well. We'll also stick some towels down, make sure no crud gets in here. I'm going to take a shop vac and try and vacuum up around the heads, so that way we don't drop any dirt down to the motor. Alright, so we unplugged the coolant temp sensor and the oil pressure sensor down here. So now all that's left is to remove that coolant hose. So we're going to remove that coolant hose. Then after that we have 5 E8 bolts, 2 back there and then 3 up front. Once we remove those, we'll be able to remove the oil cooler. So here's the old unit, you know, plastic design. If you have one of your 3.6s, I guarantee you at some point in the lifetime of the vehicle, you'll be doing 1 or even 2 of these. And this is a coolant temp sensor. He had a check engine light for it. I thought maybe it would, well, upon a further inspection, you can see it's broken internally. So we'll go ahead and replace that, because you're gonna have to switch over the oil temp, or the oil pressure and the coolant temp sensors to the new unit. Alright, here we are on the new part. We went ahead and switched the oil temp sensor, the oil pressure sensor, and that was a 28mm. The coolant temp sensor is a 19mm. But remember, the old one, he actually had a check engine light with a code for it. And we went ahead and here's the new one. You could just spin. Broken inside. We ran down to the parts store. Here's a standard motor product, and here's the part number for it. We're gonna go ahead and install that. Hopefully that's something you didn't have to deal with and you're able to just swap it on over. So I'll go ahead and tighten this down into place, and we'll go ahead and start proceeding with installing the new oil cooler. Alright, so now we're installing the new O-rings on the beneath of the oil cooler. So they give you, obviously each one you need. They give you 2 O-rings. The black one is for 2011 to 2021 models. 2022 and newer is a blue O-ring. We're working on the 2012, so we'll be using the black O-ring. And this is what goes over the oil port for the oil filter. Okay, make sure you lubricate it as well. So I'm gonna put it on, and then I'm gonna take a little bit of oil and lubricate it as it goes into the actual motor. All right, the kit came with new gaskets and new bolts. We're gonna go ahead and install it now. All right, so now we're gonna install the new oil cooler with the gaskets. The mating surfaces have been cleaned. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do is, before I set it down, is I'm gonna put the coolant hose on, and then I'll set it down, plug in the oil pressure and coolant temp sensors, and then put it into place. And you'll see me tying these all down. All right, so we went ahead and installed the oil cooler. The bolts around it go down at 9 foot-pounds. All right, and make sure you unplug both sensors and the coolant hose back there, and we went ahead and installed the new oil filter. So now it's time to put the lower intake back in, and we'll go ahead and change the gaskets that come with it. We get upper and lower intake manifold gaskets, so we'll go ahead and change those before we install them in. That'll be in the next time lapse. This one also goes down at 9 foot-pounds. Remember, they're plastic components. Careful not to over torque them. All right, now it's time to go ahead and put the upper intake manifold on, and you torque it down to 8 foot-pounds. I'm gonna time lapse it. Okay, now it's time to plug everything back in back here. We'll get the bracket in first. All right, with the bracket plugged back in, we'll go ahead and start pushing everything out. Hose up top, hose right here, hose right there. Then we have the wiring, which goes in here to the throttle body. Make sure you lock it in right here. Plug in as well. And this goes into the air intake. Don't forget to put the little hooks in, the little clips to keep everything in place. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put the intake back on. All right, the next thing we're gonna do, it's recommended, but it's not required. We're gonna go ahead and change the oil. All right, so we just changed the oil. Now the only thing left we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and pop the reservoir for the coolant off. We're gonna start filling coolant, and as it fills, we're gonna crack this bleeder valve on the thermostat housing until we get a nice stream coming out of it. All right, we got the car running, heat set high, climate on. That's how we're gonna bleed the cooling system. It is running while we go ahead and get the coolant through. Coolant's flowing, keep on everything. Thermostat's starting to bubble out, you see that? We're gonna wait until we get a nice stream out of it. There you go. See all the air coming out? All right, heat's hot. At the coolant operating temperature, it's been running about 10 minutes. I think we're all good here. All right, guys, that was everything involved in changing the oil cooler / oil filter housing. And it's a common failure area for these motors. You can go ahead and use that Dorman part as an upgrade. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. And please don't forget to subscribe.